What does quilting mean to me? That is today's topic. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Miriam, and I like to talk about all kinds of quilting and sewing related things here on YouTube. I do lots of tutorials and I release quilt patterns and just do all kinds of fun quilty things. Today, I want to do something a little bit different than, my typical tutorial. And I just want to sit here and talk with you guys a little bit about something that I've been thinking about lately. I've had several people kind of ask me, have you done a video where you kind of tell us a little bit about yourself? Are you comfortable telling about yourself and things like that? Just kind of getting a little bit more personal with you guys, I guess. And I thought, what better way to do that than to make a video about kind of how I got into quilting and why I love quilting so much. I will start kind of at the beginning when I first started quilting. I had recently moved to Missouri from Minnesota. I was born and raised in Minnesota. So my family and I, my parents and my younger sister, we all moved down to Missouri back in 2015. Yes, I think it was 2015. At the time, I was 26. Yes, I am 34. I know I look a lot younger than what I am. I get that all the time. Yeah, so I am 34. I am not married. I am a happy fur mommy. Anybody who knows me knows I love my pets. They make me very happy. We moved to Missouri in 2015, and very shortly after we moved here, I realized that quilting was a huge deal here. I don't remember quilting really being that big in Minnesota. Maybe it was the area that I lived in, but I never really saw quilt shops. The only quilting fabric I really probably ever saw was at a Joann's, and I never really looked at it there because I wasn't into quilting at the time. But moving down here to Missouri, there's quilt shops everywhere. Every small town pretty much has a quilt shop. There's, of course, out in Hamilton, Missouri, which is about an hour and a half away from here. I've been there several times. There is the Missouri Star Quilt Company, and they've basically taken over an entire town, and the entire downtown area of Hamilton is quilt shops, which is incredible. If you have a chance to go there, I would strongly encourage you to go. It's an experience, okay? And plan to spend at least a full day there if you're a quilting nerd. So it's a lot of fun. So yeah, after we moved to Missouri, I realized quilting was a really big deal. I had never really considered quilting or sewing because my only experience with sewing was back in 7th grade, I do believe, and we had to take home ec at my school. Our home ec project was a skirt. Mine was awful. It was just probably one of the worst that was turned in. Honestly, my teacher pulled me aside and she said, Miriam, I'm going to give you a C minus. I'm going to give you a passing grade because you actually did the project and you turned it in. But, didn't cut it. It's just not good. So it was just really awful. The hem was not hemmed properly. I just turned the fabric. So I didn't roll it so the raw edges were not concealed. My hem was just all over the place. There was no straight lines stitched. The waistband was literally just elastic. Some of the elastic was sticking out of the sleeve. It was really awful. It was really bad. And I just assumed after that, sewing just is not for me. And that's okay. That's fine. I did not consider sewing until literally till I was 26, 27, around that time. Yeah, so I saw that quilting was a really big deal here. I thought quilts were so beautiful. I loved how they were cozy and very geometric. I really liked that. I just thought they were really neat. I thought it was a really cool looking hobby. So I just dove in without really watching any tutorials really, and I made my first quilt. I went and bought flannel from Joann's. I cut rectangles, sewed them together, and made my first quilt. I attempted stitch in the ditch quilting, which, it was not all in the ditch. My quilting was all over the place. It was not great. Actually, let me go get the quilt. I think I still have it, and I want to show you guys how far I've come. Okay, so this is the first quilt I ever made. So you can see I just cut out rectangles and sewed them together. They're not all square. It's not great. The back is just a chevron, but let's see. Here's a section where I tried to do stitch in the ditch, and the stitches are all over the place. It's just not pretty. It's not. I rounded the corners of the binding, it looks like, or at least I was attempting to, and I'm not really sure how I did that. I just went for it. And you know what? After I made this quilt, I was so proud of myself, and I was hooked. This was it. I had finally found my creative outlet that I was super excited about. I could not wait to get started on my next quilt. It was like I heard the angels sing and realized this is it. This is what I want to do with my free time. So I started quilting. I started learning. I started watching some tutorials, researching, reading blog posts. Slowly but surely, I've gotten better. What I did was shortly after, I had made a couple more baby quilts that, each one was getting a little bit better. And my family was like, "Hey, why don't you open up an Etsy shop and try to sell some of these? These are really good." They were simple, but they looked good. They looked better than this. And so I did that, and I sold a couple of baby quilts, which was very exciting. And then I got a message from someone asking if I would be open to making a quilt for her. She had bought a quilt kit and quickly realized that she did not want to take on making a quilt. She wasn't a quilter. She just didn't want to do it, but she wanted to have the quilt for her son, I guess. Her son really liked dachshunds. She bought the Elizabeth Hartman dachshund quilt kit. And let me tell you, before then, I had never followed a quilt pattern. I was just kind of making up my own thing. I would draw it out on a piece of notebook paper and then cut the pieces. And if I had to fix stuff because I didn't cut it right, then I fixed it. But this was the first time I was taking on a quilt pattern. I quickly learned why quilt patterns are so important and why they are so helpful to us quilters, because it takes a lot of the guesswork out. That was my first quilt pattern I ever followed, and I've been hooked on Elizabeth Hartman patterns since then. I've made several others of her patterns because I love them. She makes such cute designs. So then after I made that, then I created a custom quilt listing on Etsy. For several years, I was making custom quilts for people, and that brought me a lot of experience in a relatively short period of time. I was making all kinds of quilts. I was following quilt patterns. I was making quilts from brand new fabric. I was making a lot of memory quilts. So people would send me clothing, old bed sheets, whatever fabric that was sentimental to them that they wanted used in a quilt. I made a lot of memory quilts that are now, all over the United States. I did one quilt for a Canadian family. I did one quilt for an Australian gentleman. I technically have quilts that I've made all over the globe, which is pretty exciting. Custom quilts were a huge part of my quilting journey, and it really helped me really fall in love with the craft. Quilting is such an amazing experience, just doing it. It's just, I don't know how to describe it. It's like you're able to express your creativity as well as hone your skills, learn new skills. I mean, pretty much with every quilt that I make, I learn a little something new or I improve a technique a little more. I love quilting so much. It's very important to me. Then COVID hit and no one was ordering custom quilts during COVID. No one was spending that extra money on something like that. I had to look elsewhere for work. I started looking online for remote work. It didn't really excite me, because I had been quilting for several years at that point and I loved doing that. I wanted to be making money, that's kind of important. So I found this website and it's for freelance and contract workers called Upwork.com. I signed up for that site. I got all approved and made a profile on there. And I was just looking for something, some kind of typing job or assistant job, something like that. Shortly after I opened the profile, I got a message from a lady who had a blog that was all about quilting. In my profile, I had included that, I had several years worth of experience in quilting and I know a lot about the crafting industry just because that's been, kind of my little obsession. So she asked me, would you be willing to write for a quilting blog? And I told her, well, I know a lot about quilting, but I have zero experience in writing. I was very honest and upfront about it. And she said, you know what? That's okay. Let's just do a test blog post or two and see how you do. So I did the tests and she was like, Miriam, you're actually very good at this. You're good at conversational writing and you're very good at explaining step by step how to do something. I would like to hire you on as a writer for my blog. That's how I really got started in kind of this content creation side of quilting. Instead of actually making quilts, I was writing about it. I am still working for that blog today. I really enjoy working for them. So I got started with that. It just has progressed over the years. Since that, I've written a couple quilt patterns specifically for that blog. I have done some ghostwriting for some pretty big crafting blogs. I've also done ghostwriting for some quilt patterns. So that's been very fun. So basically, a quilter will come up with a design idea and then I actually create the pattern. So I write out the instructions, I create the little illustrations in the pattern that shows you how to do step by step. I've done that in the past. I have recently started creating my own patterns, which I'm very excited about. I have a brand new pattern coming out very soon in the next couple of weeks. I'm still waiting on getting the paper version. I did a little survey and it sounded like kind of maybe like 40% of people would be interested in a paper pattern and the other 60% would be open to purchasing a PDF. So I'm just waiting on those paper patterns to be delivered. Stay tuned for that. I'm very excited about that quilt pattern coming out. Then let's fast forward now to April of this year. I finally took the plunge. I had just enough poking and prodding from my dad specifically, but he was like, why don't you try doing a YouTube channel? You never know. You never know. It could be good. You could be good at it. You might enjoy it. And I was like, very nervous because I don't know if you can tell or not, but I get very nervous when I'm recording. So this does not come naturally to me to speak in front of a camera. I have gotten better since April, I think anyways. I think I've improved a little bit. Yeah, so April 26th of this year was when I released my first video. And this is a whole new chapter in my little journey. I am beyond shocked and amazed and grateful that this channel has grown so quickly. As of this morning, I think I just got over like 6,500 people have subscribed to my channel. How crazy is that? That's a lot of people. And just in like 7 months or something like that, I am flabbergasted. That is the perfect use of the word because it's just, I had no idea that this was going to happen. Honestly, I did not have high hopes. I was lots of questioning if I should do it or not. I am so thankful to everyone who has subscribed and everyone who's been so kind in the comments and everything. I'm learning a lot and I'm having a lot of fun doing this. Probably what I love most is I'm getting to communicate with you guys in the comments, and several people have emailed me or messaged me on Instagram, and I'm getting to know you guys, and we're sharing experiences and sharing tips and tricks on stuff, and I just really love that. That was a huge reason why I wanted to start this channel. Was I really wanted to create kind of this community of like-minded quilters who, are not afraid to make mistakes, and who are, could be beginners, you could be a professional quilter. You could be someone that's been making quilt patterns for decades, who's been quilting for decades, and still, enjoy this community. And that's something that's very important to me. I've talked to several people, some people have been quilting 50 plus years, or some people, I'm about to embark on my first quilt. And that is really exciting to me that I'm able to talk to so many different quilters and learn from their perspectives. So, that was a really long introduction into me and kind of how I've gotten into quilting. With all that being said, like a sermon with a really long intro, and now I'm going to get to my main points, right? So, my main points with why I love quilting, or what quilting means to me. Let's go with three main points. My first point is it is a way for me to truly express my creativity and to be creative in a really fun, exciting way. No matter how many times I make the same quilt pattern, each quilt looks completely different. Have you noticed that? You can look up a quilt pattern on Google or Pinterest, Instagram, whatever you use. These people have used the exact same quilt pattern, but depending on the color choices that they make or the fabrics that they use, those quilts look completely different from each other. And I love that. It really allows you to reach deep within yourself and really express that creativity. And that's very important for us to be able to do that. And I love it. Number two, I kind of already touched on this a little bit, but I am constantly learning. There is no end to the learning process of quilting, and people are constantly coming up with new techniques. There's constantly new patterns coming out, constantly new notions coming out or tools coming out that make something easier or show you a different way to do something. And that's really exciting to me. I really love that. Endless possibilities. There are so many different styles of quilting, and there's so many options for beginner quilters who have, never made a quilt before. They're just starting to learn how to make a quilt. Or for quilters that have been quilting for 50 plus years. My glue basting video that went, pretty much, I would say viral to me. I would say that's viral. It's had over 50,000 views. Crazy. But I have had ladies message me and say, I've been quilting for decades and I've never heard of this, or I've never thought to do this. And I just thought, that's wild. That's crazy to me that a little nobody on the internet who has only been quilting for 7 years was able to teach someone who's been quilting for decades something new. And that's really exciting. And I love that. And number three, why quilting is so important to me and why I love it so much. It brings people together. Whether it's me and you right now, you're watching me, you love quilting, I love quilting. We may be nothing alike, you know? You might be an older lady that lives in England, but you love quilting, and I love quilting. You might be a teenager that's curious about the craft that lives in New York City, but you know what? You're interested in quilting, and I'm interested in quilting, and that's bringing us together right now. And how cool is that? It can bring together people from completely different backgrounds. We are able to have that commonality of loving quilting. We're able to share experiences together. It brings people together, and it has for literally centuries. Back in the day, communities would have community quilting bees where all the women of the town would all come together. Well, maybe not all the women of the town, but a large group of ladies would come together and they would create quilts together and they would give it to, a new couple that was getting married or a family that was welcoming a new baby. That's just the center of quilting, I really believe, is community. And that's why I feel like this community that we're building together is so important. And I am so very excited that you're here to join me in this. And I hope that we continue to grow together in our skills and friendship. And I just want to thank all of you so much for coming back and watching my videos, for leaving the comments, for reaching out. I truly am very thankful and very excited. I'm just very humbled that I get to share my love of quilting with you guys, and you guys seem to be enjoying it. So that's very good. So that's what quilting means to me. Just thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and leave a comment. I would love to know, what does quilting mean to you? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to talk to you about it. So thank you so much again for watching. Don't forget to subscribe if you're not subscribed. Hit the little notification bell off to the right of the subscribe button, and that will let you know when my new videos are coming out. There's going to be some really fun, festive, holiday themed tutorials coming out very soon. I will be making an entire video on my new quilt pattern that's going to be coming out. So stay tuned for that, guys. Thank you so much again, and have a great rest of your day. Bye. That was way off topic. Maybe I'll cut that out. But anyways, I'm just rambling.